So cute. We're doing that. It's okay. No, don't feel bad. Hey, au pairs. I'm Edwina.
I'm Hannah.
And
today we are talking
what are we talking about?
We are talking about airfare and whether host families are expected to pay for your flight or your transportation to the city that you are moving to.
We wanted to share our personal experiences because the general answer to this question is that it depends on your family, and we say that a lot and we're kind of sick of saying it, so we might as well give you two different perspectives of what we had.
Au pair will suggest to host families that they pay for your airfare if they like you, basically. So there is no obligation for your host family to pay for you. They also suggest that a host family only pays for your airfare once you arrive, so they reimburse you essentially, which kind of sucks if you're getting a really expensive flight, but it's better than nothing. I mean, we've had very different experiences because we live in very different places. For my host family, the first time around, I literally took a bus, which took about 17 hours, and it was so painful, but
from like Midlands, England to Paris.
But it was the cheapest option, and I was moving, and maybe I didn't find out the exact date that I wanted to move until like a week before, so all the flights had gone up by quite a lot. So I ended up just getting the bus. It was hell. And being on a bus while you're crying because you've just like hugged your parents goodbye and your sister and your family. Oh my god, I was in tears.
Okay, but back to the question: did your host family?
No, my host family didn't pay for it. It was only like a £5 bus. Yeah, that's why I did it.
No wonder it sucks.
Otherwise,
so she gave you £5 more.
No, she didn't give me anything.
Oh, sorry, I missed the answer.
This family did not pay for my bus to Paris.
So for me, my first host family didn't ever offer to pay for my flight, although they could definitely afford to. They did later on offer to pay for my language lessons, but at that point, I personally wasn't comfortable with accepting their paying for my language lessons because I could afford them on my own from my savings, and I wasn't really sure if I wanted to take language lessons, and I wasn't sure if I was going to stay with my host family anyway, so I didn't want another thing tying me to them just in case I wanted to leave, which is what I did do. So my first family didn't pay for my flight, but they offered to pay for my language lessons. And I think they casually mentioned that they might pay for my flight, so it was against something that I could have had them talk about with me, but at the end of the day, I didn't want to broach the subject. It was kind of awkward, and I didn't need it. I didn't want to feel obliged to do something to make up for that payment yet again.
It depends on your host family. For my second host family, I didn't even need to ask. I was completely broke because I've been studying in London and spent practically all of my savings, so I had no money. I found my host family within 2 weeks of looking, interviewed, Skyped them a bunch of times, really got on with them really well, and then they messaged me being like, here is a flight on this date if you want to come then. And I was like, great. I ended up going to the city on the date that they chose, which worked out perfectly, and they paid for the flight, which was only about £50 in the end, or 60 euros or whatever in the end, but
it makes a difference. I used to be an au pair in the south of France, and I went from Paris to meet them in the south by train, and they picked me up from the train station, and I agreed with them in my interviews and asked them to pay for my train down because I literally couldn't afford it if they didn't pay for it, and they agreed that they would compensate me for that train ticket. So they ended up, with my first paycheck, gave me like the $50 or 50 euros rather that it was worth.
When you're an au pair for the second time around, you kind of know the
what you can ask for.
Yeah, a bit more. But I would say it's always worth trying to bring it up and asking, because it can save you so much money that they have, which you don't have, and then you can avoid a 17-hour bus journey.
When I look back on it, I am kind of regretful that I didn't ask my first host family to pay for my flight, because that was literally pennies for them. It came out of my money and I was paying for it by myself, so.
Which is like a few months worth of au pair salary. Another thing Au Pair World talks about is your airfare home. So if you're going from your au pair position directly home, your host family, again, can choose whether or not they want to pay for you, and it often depends on how much they liked you, supposedly, according to Au Pair World. But for me, I ended up getting a flight to a different city on a random day that I chose, and I like to have full control over that. And my flight was only about €15, €15, so I didn't ask for that. That is also something which you might want to consider asking for. Final thing I wanted to bring up was once you get to Paris, you should not be paying for flights to go on holiday with them. You should not be paying for trains if you're going on holiday with them. You should not be paying for even buses if you're going away with them. So my host family were great about this because they would book my flight and they'd, you know, send me all the details. So I'd be in full control over my flight and boarding pass, etc. But they would have paid for it.
Like you'd be in full control in that you would have it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be in control. They would choose for you.
But I mean, like with my first family, they would often be like, okay, we're going on a trip tomorrow. And I'd be like, oh, didn't realize I was going anywhere. They also once sent me back to Paris from their holiday home and I ended up paying for that train, which you shouldn't be doing.
That's one thing that I definitely always ask for. I remember having to go to the south of France with my host kids by train to see like the grandma, and my host parents compensated me for my train ticket, and I made sure that that was going to be compensated. Okay, well that's all for now. I hope our personal experiences have helped you.
Let us know about your own personal experiences in the comments and whether you feel bold enough to ask your host families for your airfare.
It's really hard, we know, so we give you the strength.
Yeah. Subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate all the subscribers and likes and comments that we get at the moment, and also follow us on Twitter.
More information down below. That's all for now. Ciao.